The offer is good until Friday, Ariana. Damien Roth's voice rang through the vast lobby of the Obsidian Spire, cold as polished steel. After that, my board will launch a hostile takeover. The decision is yours. It was Monday night, 11 o'clock. Moonlight swept across the towering panes of glass, pouring onto the two silhouettes facing each other in the lobby of the billion-dollar building. Ariana Mercer, the 35-year-old CEO of Mercer Capital Group, stared straight at her sworn enemy, her jaw clenched, trying not to let the rage boiling up inside her show. "Get out of my building, Damien." Damien merely smiled. His eyes were cold and cruel. As he turned to leave, he paused, his gaze catching on a man who was quietly buffing the marble floor, trying to make himself invisible in the shadows. A cruel smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He nodded toward the janitor in the Navy cleaning uniform. "Still struggling?" Damien said, his tone sneering. "Maybe your janitor here has some brilliant tips." He must understand the company from the foundation. A blatant insult. A direct jab at Ariana's pride. In that instant, anger trapped her. Ariana spun toward the man, her voice sour and mocking. "All right, you heard him. Give me your genius financial advice. What's your master plan to save Mercer Capital Group?" Jasper Reyes stopped. The whir of the floor polisher cut off. Silence, heavy as stone, fell over the three of them. He slowly raised his head, glanced at Damien first, then looked straight into Ariana's eyes. His face showed nothing. Then he spoke. Calm, clear. "Cancel the Hermes deal." Ariana froze. Jasper continued, his voice even, like a surgeon reading the diagnosis of a malignant tumor. "Your offshore company is not properly protected. It exposes a vulnerability in the leveraged buyout clause buried in the contract. When you sign on Friday, you are not buying a company. You are handing over 51% control of your company, for pennies." Silence swallowed the lobby like a vacuum, drawing the air out of the room. Damien's smile vanished. In its place came astonishment, then a flash of pure anger. Ariana did not move. She seemed to stop breathing. The janitor's words, uttered with an authoritative calm, struck her like a punch to the gut. "What the hell are you talking about?" Damien snarled, his voice rough as sandpaper. "Have you been inhaling too many cleaning chemicals?" He turned to Ariana. "Ariana, this man is clearly insane. You should fire him, or better yet, have him arrested for harassment." But Ariana did not look at him. Her sharp, analytical eyes were fixed on Jasper. She saw no madness in his gaze, only fatigue and an unshakable certainty. Hermes was top secret, a defensive maneuver to block Roth dynamics. The vulnerability he had just described, the specific, terrifying clause buried under hundreds of pages of legal language, was the ghost that had haunted her closed-door meetings with the legal team. The thing she had been reassured was under control. "Security," Ariana said, her voice low and authoritative, tearing through the taut atmosphere. Two guards by the entrance immediately stepped forward. Damien smiled triumphantly, thinking they would restrain Jasper. "Escort Mr. Damien Roth out of the area," Ariana went on, her voice ice-cold. "Your presence is no longer required." Damien's jaw dropped. "Ariana, you're going to listen to this." "Nobody?" "I am," she replied, eyes never leaving Jasper. "Now go." The two guards flanked Damien. He shot Jasper a look filled with hatred, promising revenge. Then, with a disdainful exhale, he allowed himself to be led away. The sliding glass doors closed behind him. The lobby fell silent again, but the atmosphere had changed. Jasper stood there. His hands, gripping the polisher's handle, were suddenly damp with sweat. He had just broken the most important rule of his new life. Be invisible. Be silent. He had been seen, he had spoken, and by doing so, he might have just destroyed everything. "You," Ariana said, pointing at him with a finger. "Follow me." Right now, she turned on her heel and strode toward the private elevator without bothering to look back. Jasper's heart pounded. This was it. The end. He would be fired. And with no job, there would be no money for Sophia's medicine. The thought sent a pure rush of fear down his spine. He abandoned the machine, walked on numb legs, and followed the most powerful woman in the city, straight into the lion's den. The ride up to the penthouse on the 80th floor was an ominous silence. Jasper stood pressed into a corner of the glass elevator, watching the city lights spread below like a constellation falling. A world he had once belonged to. A world he had once understood. Now he felt like a stranger returned to the planet that had exiled him. The elevator doors opened directly into her office. The space was vast and minimalist, a huge black stone desk, floor-to-ceiling windows giving the sense of a presiding gaze down over the city. No family photos, no decorations, only power distilled into glass, steel, and silence. Ariana walked to the desk but did not sit. She turned, arms crossed, her face a mask of controlled tension. "Who are you?" It was not a question. It was an accusation. "Jasper Reyes," he answered, almost a whisper. "Night shift, cleaning department." "Don't play games with me," she snapped. "There are 3 people in the world who know about the leverage clause in Hermes. Me, the chief counsel, and the snake I just kicked out of the lobby. So I ask again, who are you? And how do you know about my deal?" Jasper's mind spun. The truth was a weapon that could destroy him. He could not say who he really was. He could not tell her more about Damien than she already knew. He had to cling to data. "I read a lot of things," he answered, intentionally vague. "Public filings. Market analysis. Sometimes I see patterns others miss." "Patterns?" she scoffed, circling like a shark. "So you're telling me you deduced a fatal flaw in a multi-billion-dollar deal from public documents alone? Do you think I'm stupid?" "No." Jasper looked straight at her. "I think you're in trouble." He paused, then added, "That clause is not an accident. It's a trap. It's disguised as a standard indemnity provision, with deliberately ambiguous language. It's triggered by the transfer of offshore assets, which is the crux of the deal. The moment you sign, Damien will file for an injunction. His lawyers will argue that the clause allows him to buy your shares at a preset price, a catastrophic low. He's not aiming to take over. He's aiming to steal." Ariana stopped. She looked at him, clearly processing each fragment of information. He had not merely pointed out a problem. He had described exactly how the trap's predatory mechanism worked. The scenario her legal team had dismissed as paranoia. She stepped to the desk, leaned lightly, her face unreadable. A long, painful minute passed. She said nothing. Jasper could hear his own heart hammering in his chest. Finally, she spoke, her voice cool, dangerous. "I am in a war, Mr. Reyes. And I am losing. My company is being systematically attacked, and there is a traitor on the board feeding Damien information. Hermes was supposed to be the last line of defense. Now you tell me it is the guillotine." She pushed away from the desk and closed the distance until she was only a few paces from him. Her eyes were like slabs of granite. "I don't care if you're a spy, a ghost, or a prodigy. I don't care. Right now, you are the only person who has given me a piece of the truth. So here's the deal." She held up 2 fingers. 48 hours. That is all the time you get. I want incontrovertible proof that Damien Roth set a trap. I want to know who my traitor is. And I want to know how to flip this, to destroy him with his own device. Jasper stared at her, speechless. "You want me to investigate my company?" he asked. "I want you to save it," she corrected. "You will have my personal authority, full access to data, personnel, resources. No one will be allowed to question you." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "If you succeed, You write your own paycheck. Name your price. But if you fail, if you waste my time, or this is an elaborate con, I will personally see to it that the rest of your life is spent in a federal prison. Understand? Jasper thought of Sophia, her pale face, her quiet strength, the medicine bottle on the kitchen counter, getting emptier by the day. Insane, a suicide mission, but also the only lifeline he had in 6 long years. He inhaled. The ghost of the old man inside him stirred from the ashes. "Yes, Ms. Mercer," he said, his voice reclaiming a strength he thought long lost. "I understand. But to understand how a janitor came to hold a secret worth billions, we must go back in time to 6 years earlier, to the day Jasper Reyes lost everything. 6 years earlier, Jasper Reyes was not a janitor. At 29, he was one of Wall Street's most promising financial analysts. He had built something many spend a lifetime chasing, an algorithm that predicted market movements before they happened. He called it the Argent Protocol. And Damian Roth, then a partner and Jasper's closest friend, knew it intimately. "Jasper, you're a genius, my friend," Damian once said in their cramped Tribeca office, where whiteboards were covered with formulas. "This will change everything. We'll be rich." Back then, Jasper believed him. They were like brothers. They built the dream from nothing. Then one March morning, Jasper arrived at the office to find the FBI waiting. "Jasper Reyes, you are under arrest for securities fraud and money laundering." Shock hit. Fraud? Money laundering? He had never. They produced evidence. Trades from his accounts, transfers to a shell company in the Cayman Islands, emails bearing his digital signature ordering illegal acts. All of it was fake. And all of it perfect. The only person who had access to his system? Damian Roth. The trial lasted 6 months. Jasper's lawyer, a court-appointed attorney because he could not afford top counsel, went through the motions. The press whispered about the fallen prodigy. Former colleagues turned their backs. And Damian Roth? He vanished. No defense, no calls, only silence. Jasper was sentenced to 5 years in prison. But the worst came 3 months later. The media reported on a rising fintech startup, Roth Dynamics, with a revolutionary algorithm that could predict markets. The algorithm Jasper had spent 4 years building. Argent Protocol, now renamed the Kronos System. Damian had not only framed Jasper, he stole the life's work of Jasper's heart and built an empire on the ashes of his life. When his sentence was reduced for good behavior and he was released after 3 years, Jasper walked out with $47 in his pocket, a ruined name, and a message from the hospital on his voicemail. His wife, who had divorced him while he was imprisoned, had died in a car accident. She left behind Sophia, their 4-year-old daughter, suffering from a rare illness that required expensive monthly medicine. Jasper had no credentials of value, no money, no future, but he had Sophia. And for his daughter, he would do anything. He changed his name to Javier Ruiz on employment papers. He severed every tie to the past. He sought night shift jobs, places that did not scrutinize background checks, cleaning, security, dishwashing. 6 months earlier, he landed the night shift at the Obsidian Spire, the building that housed Mercer Capital Group, the same place Damian Roth often visited to meet partners. Jasper had no plan for revenge. He only wanted to survive each day, buy Sophia's medicine, and avoid the past. Until that Monday night. In the lobby's darkness, he heard Damian's voice, heard the threats aimed at Ariana Mercer, heard the smugness in every word. And when Damian insulted him, something in Jasper rose up. He realized Damian was repeating exactly what he had done to Jasper. A perfect trap. A theft disguised as a legitimate deal. And this time, there was someone who could stop it. A ghost. A man dead on paper. Someone Damien would never suspect had the courage to speak up. So when Ariana Mercer, in a flash of anger, demanded his counsel, Jasper offered the only thing he had: the truth. Now, standing in the 80th floor office with the 48-hour ultimatum hanging over him, Jasper understood. He was not only fighting for Ariana Mercer, he was fighting for Sophia. Fighting to reclaim his name, and perhaps to drag Damien Roth down to the hell he deserved. The clock began to tick. 48 hours to find the traitor. 48 hours to save an empire. 48 hours to rewrite the ending of the story Damien thought he had closed 6 years ago. And the hunt begins. The air in Ariana Mercer's office was stretched tight as a violin string. The decision had been made, and hesitation time was over. "Nina," she pressed the intercom button, her voice sharp as a blade. "Cancel my entire schedule for the next 48 hours. All meetings, all calls, everything. Then I need you to issue a new security badge, Alpha Prime Access, for Mr. Jasper Reyes. He will have unlimited access to the full network, databases, and areas of Mercer Capital Group, effective immediately. He will operate directly under my authority. No questions, no delays. Understand?" A calm, professional voice replied over the speaker. "Understood, Ms. Mercer. Anything else?" "Yes. Prepare the auxiliary strategy room on this floor. Bring up a new secure mainframe laptop." "Right away." "Yes, ma'am." Ariana cut the intercom. She looked at Jasper. Her gaze no longer that of a desperate CEO, but of a general who had just launched a counterattack. The transformation had begun. The man in front of her was no longer a janitor. He was the ghost inside her machine. An invisible weapon, she was pointing straight at the enemy's heart. "The strategy room is at the end of the corridor," Ariana said, pointing toward the steel door. "It's small, soundproof, and has a direct fiber optic line to the internal servers. You will work there. The laptop will have everything you need. My personal phone number will be preset on the desktop. You report only to me. No one else." Jasper nodded, his head spinning. From floor mop to Alpha Prime Access. From the darkness of the basement to the brain center of an empire. All in 15 minutes. A few minutes later, Nina Patel appeared, hair cropped neat, stride quick and decisive. She handed Jasper a heavy black laptop and a plain white card with a small gold chip. She did not meet his eyes. Professionalism masked the burning curiosity hidden in her averted glance. Ariana led Jasper to a door that looked like an innocuous filing cabinet. She placed her finger on the scanner. A soft click sounded. The door opened, revealing a small room with glass walls. Inside was a minimalist desk, a high-backed chair, and a large screen on the wall. Silent, cold, a glass fish tank, and Jasper, the fish, about to be put on display for the whole executive floor to see. "Go," Ariana said curtly. "The clock is ticking." Jasper stepped in. The door closed behind him with a light, decisive hiss. He was alone. He set the laptop on the desk and powered it up. The screen lit. Black background. A single icon in the center. Mercer Archives. Jasper inhaled. The smell of metal and new plastic from the laptop hit him. The scent of a life he had lost. His fingers, calloused from gripping a mop, hovered over the keyboard. Familiarity rushed in. He swiped the card. Access granted. The entire digital soul of Mercer Capital Group unfolded before his eyes. Financial records, internal emails, acquisition drafts, personnel files, an ocean of data, cold, deep, and dangerous. The outside world blurred. The janitor vanished. The analyst returned. But then a sharp vibration in his pocket pulled him from his focus. The phone. The screen lit, a photo of Sophia, the little girl smiling broadly, missing a baby tooth. Jasper's heart lurched. He had been here more than 2 hours. He had forgotten to call home. He answered, his voice softening immediately. "Hey, sweetheart. Daddy's sorry. I'm being held up at work." "It's okay, Daddy," Sophia's small, tired voice said. "Mrs. Alvarez brought soup. Will you come home soon?" Those words cut him like shattered glass. "Daddy, can't come home tonight, Sophia. I'm on a special project, but I'll come home as soon as I can. I promise." "Okay," she replied quietly, disappointment in her tone. "Don't forget to check my medicine bottle, okay?" "I won't forget," he said, his stomach tightening. He glanced at the small plastic bag in his wallet. The white pills. 4 pills. 2 for tomorrow morning. 2 for tomorrow night. Just enough for 2 days. The 48-hour clock was not just for Ariana. It was for Sophia, too. "I love you, Daddy. I love you more." He hung up. Silence flooded the room again, thicker, more suffocating than before. Jasper stared at the encrypted files, his gaze sharper than ever. Now, Damian Roth was no longer merely an opponent in a corporate game. He was the single barrier between his daughter and her life. Time remaining, 46 hours and 12 minutes. Jasper didn't start by searching for the file. He searched for the person who had opened it. He cross-referenced the server access logs with the upload timestamp. 3:14 a.m., 2 weeks ago. Who else had logged into the network at that time? His fingers flew across the keyboard, skimming through thousands of lines of data. Most were automated accounts, system backups, security scans, background processes. And then he saw it. A single result. Not a person. It was an automated account, linked to the building's HVAC system, the air and environmental controls. A ghost account, a leftover from an old system upgrade, unmonitored. It had logged in for just 2 minutes, uploaded the file, then logged out. A chill ran through Jasper's body. The traitor hadn't just given Damian information. They had given him a key. A secret doorway disguised perfectly as an air conditioning system. He began digging into the HVAC account's permissions. Everything was restricted, except for one anomaly. It had read and write access to a single folder located on the financial server, labeled Archived Audits Q2 2018. There was no reason an HVAC system should ever touch financial audit records from 7 years ago. Jasper opened the folder. Inside were thousands of dusty, lifeless audit reports, useless data, a digital landfill. But he wasn't looking at the files. He was looking at the spaces between them, the inconsistencies. He sorted the list by file size instead of name. Most were small, just 1 to 200 kilobytes. But one file stood out. Size, 150 megabytes. An audit report could never be that large. It was a whale among minnows. Jasper's heartbeat quickened. He opened the file. Not a report. It was a compressed, encrypted data package. He launched a decryption algorithm. A folder appeared containing just one item, a video file. Jasper's hands trembled slightly as he clicked play. The large wall screen flickered on, its pale light washing over his face. The footage was grainy, covert, showing a man seated in an office, his back to the camera, speaking to someone on speakerphone. And the voice on the other end, Jasper recognized it instantly. Damian Roth. And the man in the chair, his face half hidden in shadow. Jasper recognized his frame, the expensive watch on his wrist. Harold Pierce, Ariana's board advisor, the man she trusted like a father. Jasper's blood turned to ice. He rewound the video, turned up the volume. The sound was distorted, but still clear enough. The final transfer will be wired to the account in Geneva once the deal is signed. Damien's voice murmured over the phone, "You're certain she won't suspect a thing?" Harold Pierce shifted slightly in his chair, face still in shadow. Ariana is proud. She sees the Hermes deal as her breakthrough, her way to finally step out of her father's shadow. Her pride won't let her back down. And the board? "The board is mine," Harold said, voice eerily calm. "They trust me. When the time comes, I'll advise them that Roth Dynamics acquisition is the only way to protect their investment from Ariana's recklessness." "They'll vote with me." "Perfect," Damien replied, his faint laughter audible. "Her legacy, my company, and your retirement fund? Perfect." Jasper clenched his fists. It was all here. Motive, method, the grotesque arrogance, and the betrayal. This was no longer business. This was the deliberate destruction of a legacy by the very man sworn to protect it. Jasper saved the file. If Damien or Harold ever discovered it, the video would be wiped remotely within seconds. He copied the footage into an encrypted partition, then backed it up onto a micro SD card. He slid the tiny card into the hidden pocket of his wallet, right beside the plastic bag containing Sophia's last 4 pills. The evidence was clear. But now came the harder question. How could he make Ariana believe? He imagined himself standing before her. The man you trust like a father is plotting to destroy you. She might break, or strike back, accusing him of fabrication. Such a betrayal went beyond reason. It pierced to the core of emotion. And if he presented it the wrong way, everything would explode. He needed more. Enough evidence to force Ariana's logic to accept before her heart could deny. Jasper turned back to the screen and typed 3 keywords. Geneva. Account. Harold Pierce. This time it was no blind hunt. It was a surgical operation. He dove into encrypted international transaction logs from the past 6 months. Outside the glass walls, the sky began to change color, from pitch black to bruised violet, then fading into pale silver. The city was waking. But Jasper had not slept. Fueled by cold coffee from the machine Nina had placed outside and the fire of anger burning in his gut, he kept typing. The clacking of keys sounded like the rhythm of war drums. The clock ticked to 6:47 a.m. Time remaining, 40 hours, 13 minutes. And Jasper Reyes, the ghost buried 6 years ago, was rising from the ashes. This time, not as the victim, but as the predator. The hunt continues. Jasper found the trail, and it was beautiful in the terrifying cleverness of it. A string of small payments was authorized from Mercer Capital Group's international division to dozens of shell companies labeled consulting services. From there, the money was pooled, rerouted, laundered through a maze of accounts, until it all trickled into a single heavily encrypted account in Geneva. The account was registered to a shell entity, Aquila Holdings. Jasper looked up Aquila Holdings, a dead end, absolute anonymity. But he didn't need to see the real name on the account. He had the video. Now he also had the complete map of the financial architecture behind the betrayal. Just as he recorded the final link in the money trail, a movement in the corridor drew his eyes to the glass. Harold Pierce walked past the fish tank office, coffee in hand, offering a courteous smile to a passing director. He paused, glanced into the glass room. He saw Jasper bent over the laptop, a misplaced janitor. Their eyes met through the glass. Harold's smile did not change. He gave a slight, barely detectable nod of scorn, the kind of nod a king gives a stable boy. Then he turned into the opulent corner office and vanished. He had no idea. He was looking at the executioner of his own fate and didn't know it. That everyday arrogance, the absolute certainty of being untouchable, only hardened Jasper's resolve. He could not risk Harold or Damien growing suspicious. He glanced at the screen. 7:15 in the morning. 48 hours had passed by 1/3. Over the next hour, Jasper packed all his findings into one secure file. He began with a diagram of the money flow from Mercer Capital Group to Aquila Holdings, attached transaction logs, server data, all the irrefutable evidence. He looked at the completed dossier, a digital bomb, ready to be detonated. Jasper picked up the desk phone, the direct line to the CEO's office. He knew this call would shatter Ariana's world, and would be the beginning of his salvation, or possibly the sentence that buried his fate. He inhaled and dialed. She picked up on the first ring, her voice clear, sharp as a blade, as if she had not slept either. "What is it?" Jasper's voice was low, steady, hiding the storm inside his chest. "I have everything. The traitor, the mechanism, the proof." He paused, choosing his words. "But you need to see it in person. And prepare yourself." Silence hung heavy on the line for a beat. Then Ariana answered, her tone flat of emotion. "My office. 5 minutes." The line went dead. He pulled the MSD card from his wallet and stuck it into the inner seam of his belt. A paranoid reflex from a life he thought he'd left behind. Never enter a meeting unprepared. He left the glass room and walked the short distance to the CEO's office. Curious morning executive eyes followed his steps. He was no longer merely an anomaly. He was the man about to meet the Queen, and everyone knew a verdict was about to be read. Nina Patel stood guard at the door, professional composure fixed to her face, but her eyes betrayed a blazing curiosity as she opened the door for him. Ariana stood by the vast window. She did not turn when he entered. "Show me," she ordered. Jasper moved to the conference table, connected his laptop to the large screen. He did not start with the video. He started with the data. "The vulnerability in Hermes is deliberate," Jasper said, his voice calm, measured. He projected the diagram he had just created. "This is a two-pronged attack. The first prong is financial." He walked her through the maze of transactions, precise, clinical language. Money flowing out of the firm, laundering through shell companies, ending in Geneva. He pointed out exploited accounting gaps, the digital backdoors that had been abused. Ariana watched, her face unreadable, her body rigid. Her sharp mind recorded each detail like a general studying the enemy's campaign map. "A masterpiece of fraud," she breathed softly. "Sophisticated, patient, almost invisible. But that's only the money. The real strike is the Hermes clause, the killing blow." "Exactly," Jasper nodded. "The cash is the payoff. Paid for the information that made that strike possible. And that information must have come from inside, from someone with the ability to touch everything. Someone you trust." Ariana turned from the window, her gaze fixed on him. "You say you know who it is. Who is Aquila Holdings? Who is my traitor?" The moment had come. Jasper took a long breath. "The name on the account is just a shell," he said softly. "I have a confession." His hand hovered over the video file. "What you are about to see." He faltered. There was no way to soften this. He pressed play. Grainy covert footage filled the screen. Damien Roth's voice, smug, triumphant, stirred the silent room. After it came the calm, measured voice of Harold Pierce. Jasper did not look at the screen. He watched Ariana. The truth is revealed. In the first few seconds, Ariana's face showed only confusion. Then, as she recognized the voice, her mask of authority shattered. Her face turned pale as marble. Her eyes widened, full of disbelief, locked on the screen. Her body went rigid. She listened to the man she had called her mentor, the man who had stood beside her father for 30 years, calmly, methodically, digging a grave for her. She heard him call her arrogant, reckless. She heard him plotting to steal her father's legacy. Each word was another cut, tearing away the foundations of her world. The video ended. The screen went black. Silence fell. Ariana stood frozen for a full minute, eyes still fixed on the dark screen, seeing nothing. Jasper neither spoke nor moved. He simply waited. She needed space to feel her way through the wreckage of her trust. Finally, she blinked. Once, then again. In her eyes, the shock was slowly replaced by something else. Harder, colder, like diamond. She turned to meet Jasper's gaze. The hurt was gone. Only a wall of steel remained. "That snake," she whispered, her voice rough from a pain so deep it barely had sound. "Ungrateful, despicable traitor." She moved to the table, her motions stiff, poured water from a crystal carafe, and drank deeply. 30 years, she said, more to herself than to him. He ate at my father's table. He held me at the funeral and swore to protect the legacy. I trusted him more than anyone. She lifted her head to look at Jasper, a dangerous light flickering in her eyes. And all that time, he was planning to take everything. This isn't just business. This is personal. He didn't just betray me, he betrayed my father. She looked at Jasper. For the first time, he wasn't just an asset or an anomaly. He was the only person in the room she knew she could trust. "They set me up, Jasper," she said. His name on her lips sounded both strange and right. Damien and Harold. "They're waiting for me to walk in on Friday like a lamb to slaughter." A faint smile crept across her lips, cold, promising retribution. "So what now? How do we punish them?" Jasper had been waiting for that question. He had thought about it all night. Revenge alone wasn't enough. It had to be poetic, complete. "They've already handed us the weapon," Jasper said, his voice firming. "The Hermes contract. We don't cancel it. We don't run." He stepped toward the screen, a plan forming in his mind, bold and dangerous. "We let them trigger it. But when the trap closes, the ones caught inside will be them." Ariana's eyes gleamed, all her focus narrowing to the cold precision of a hunter. "Go on," she said quietly. "An order." Damien and Harold's trap is nearly perfect, but it has one flaw: arrogance. They believe you'll respond as if it's just a business move. They've prepared for corporate reactions, cancellation, renegotiation, lawsuits. What they don't expect is that you'll choose to sign the booby-trapped contract. "Because that would be suicide," Ariana replied flatly. "Only if it's their contract," Jasper continued. "We alter it. Add a reciprocal clause, buried deep in the legal language, so deeply that a man drunk on his own genius won't bother to read. If the LBO clause is triggered under conditions later deemed fraudulent or collusive by an independent arbiter, the contract becomes void, and all assets of the initiating party, Roth Dynamics, used as collateral in the transaction, are automatically forfeited to Mercer Capital Group as liquidated damages." Ariana's eyes widened, taking in the audacity of the counterstrike. "You're planning to use their own trap to bankrupt them?" "Not bankrupt," Jasper corrected. "Destroy. Damien once used a hidden clause to steal my entire life. It's time we return the favor." A slow, fierce smile spread across Ariana's lips, the first true smile Jasper had ever seen on her, and it was terrifying. "I like it," she said. "Cruel. Poetic. But impossible. Robert, the chief counsel, drafts all our contracts. He's loyal, deep in Harold's orbit. The moment I ask him to write something like this, Harold will smell it instantly." "Then we don't use Robert," Jasper said. Ariana paused, a thought flashing behind her eyes. Determination etched itself onto her face. "There's one person, someone my father trusted absolutely. She retired, but for my family, she'd burn the world if I asked." She picked up her personal phone, scrolled through her contacts, and called, Evelyn? It's Ariana. I'm fine. Yes. Listen, I need you to come to the office right now. It's urgent. No, I can't explain over the phone. Please, Evelyn. I wouldn't call if it weren't serious. As she spoke, Jasper's phone buzzed. A message from Mrs. Alvarez. Hello, Jasper. Sophia feels warm. She says her head hurts. Just letting you know, Jasper's blood froze. Fever with Sophia was never minor. It was the yellow light, her body fighting something it couldn't handle, the prelude to collapse. The 4 pills in his wallet suddenly felt as heavy as 4 grains of sand. He had to finish this. He needed the money Ariana had promised. He needed it now. Time remaining. 36 hours, 45 minutes, and 1 life hanging in the balance. An hour later, Evelyn Shaw entered the office. A woman in her 60s, eyes as sharp as forged steel, hair neatly cropped, carrying an aura that seemed to drain the oxygen from the room. She hugged Ariana briefly but warmly, then turned her piercing gaze toward the unfamiliar man standing near the desk. Ariana, this is Jasper Reyes, Ariana introduced. He's going to help us save Mercer Capital. Then she turned to Jasper. And this is Evelyn Shaw, the one who will supply us with ammunition. For the next 2 hours, the 3 of them became a true war council. Jasper played the video. Evelyn watched in silence, her eyes unblinking. When it ended, she merely shook her head, her voice dropping low, laced with anger and disappointment. Harold, after all these years. But the anger quickly faded, replaced by the cold focus of a veteran attorney. Jasper laid out the details of the financial trap, and within minutes, Evelyn had begun assembling a counterattack in legal form. You're right, she said, her eyes bright with intellectual fire. The beauty of Damien's clause lies in its ambiguity. We'll use that against him, she began sketching on paper. We'll draft a reciprocal indemnity clause and bury it deep within the boilerplate section on independent arbitration and regulatory compliance. It'll look dull, purely procedural. She paused, her lips curving into a razor-edged smile. Harold will sign without hesitation. He's a financier, not a contracts lawyer. He won't see the fangs until they're already at his throat. From that moment, the room turned into a trench of battle. 3 minds, finance, law, and strategy, operated as one machine. Evelyn wrote the lethal language. Jasper checked for structural precision, ensuring the financial architecture mirrored Damien's original trap perfectly. And Ariana, sharp as a scalpel, trimmed every redundant word, turning each line of text into a weapon of legal destruction. By noon, it was done. A single page, dense with harmless-looking words. But Jasper knew. It was the most dangerous document he had ever seen. Evelyn printed it, laid the page on the table, her voice gravelly but steady. Here. The Trojan horse Ariana picked it up, her eyes hardening, the look of someone about to issue an attack order. On the wall, the clock read 12:15 p.m. Harold has a meeting with Damien tomorrow at 1:30 to finalize things before the Friday signing, she said, her tone even, sharp as a blade. We have less than 24 hours to make sure Harold brings this paper to that meeting himself, and believes it was his idea. The words hung in the air, heavy as a battlefield command. How do you make a master manipulator carry his own death sentence into war? Jasper looked at the 2 women, assembling the tactical pieces in his mind. If we approach him directly, he'll smell it. He paused for a beat. The change has to come from him. He needs to believe this is his initiative, a clever move to protect his plan. Ariana leaned forward, her voice dropping low. Appeal to his arrogance. Make him think he's outsmarting me. Exactly. Jasper nodded. We create a false fire and hand him the exact extinguisher we want him to use. A slow, dangerous smile curved across Evelyn's lips. A perfect play. The plan began to take shape, a chess match with no retreat. As they worked tirelessly on their strategy, Jasper's phone vibrated. The name on the screen, Mrs. Alvarez. He answered. Her voice trembled. Jasper, Sophia's temperature's gone up a bit. She keeps asking for you. Jasper's throat tightened. He glanced at his wallet, silently counting in his head. 3 pills. Only 3 left. Time kept slipping away. On the digital clock, the red letters blinked. Time remaining, 25 hours, 15 minutes. We'll feed him a leak, Jasper said, his voice low and firm. Make him believe there's another flaw, something more visible, seemingly serious, that's just been discovered in the contract. He paused, his eyes glinting with calculation. A flaw that sounds threatening but is actually harmless, something that'll make him panic, thinking his monthly offshore transfers might get frozen. Ariana nodded slightly, understanding immediately. If Harold thinks the deal is in danger, he'll act. He won't let it collapse. Her voice was cold as steel, but a flicker of excitement ran beneath, the hunter's instinct awakening. Jasper spent the next few hours crafting the fake memo, a masterpiece of disguise. The language was dense, tangled with layers of legal jargon, intimidating, convoluted, but entirely hollow. It described in detail a potential conflict with a vague European Union banking regulation, allegedly capable of tying up the entire Hermes deal in endless administrative red tape, freezing monthly offshore transfers for months, maybe indefinitely. A technical nightmare, enough to make any manipulator panic and move. At exactly 4 p.m., Ariana left her office, crossing the executive lounge, a place she knew Harold passed through every afternoon. She sat at the coffee table, an Earl Grey in hand, staring thoughtfully out the window. 2 minutes passed. Then she stood, exhaled softly, and walked away. On the table, the thin folder remained, forgotten, with perfect calculation. From the hidden surveillance camera in the office, the 3 of them, Ariana, Jasper, and Evelyn, watched. 20 minutes later, Harold appeared. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, the amber glow reflecting off his expensive watch. His eyes scanned the room indifferently until they stopped on the thin folder. A flicker of curiosity. He glanced around. No one there. Then, with the natural entitlement of a man used to ownership, he picked up the folder, flipped through a few pages, and without a word, slipped it into his leather briefcase. On the monitor, Ariana's lips curved slightly. He's taken the bait. Now we wait, she murmured, eyes never leaving the image of Harold disappearing from view. Waiting was its own form of torture. Jasper tried to keep working, monitoring data streams, scanning transactions, but his mind was elsewhere. At home. With Sophia. He thought of her, her small face pale with fever, the medicine bottle nearly empty. He told himself, just 24 more hours. Just make it through the night. When the phone rang, he answered instantly. Sophia's faint voice drifted through, soft as a breath. Daddy, are you coming home tonight? Jasper pressed his lips together. I'm trying my best, sweetheart. I'll be home soon. I'm okay, just a little tired. I know, I promise. Soon. But when he hung up, the promise echoed hollow in his chest, because he didn't know if he could keep it. The night crawled on. Outside, the city drowned in darkness. The obsidian spire still blazed with light, a lonely lighthouse in a sea of concrete and deceit. Inside, the 80th floor was awash in white light. 3 people, a CEO, a veteran lawyer, and a man who had once been a ghost, remained awake, waiting for their enemy's next move. Reflected lights shimmered on the glass, merging with the faint stars outside. On the screen, red letters pulsed like a heartbeat. Time remaining. 21 hours, 30 minutes. The silence in the strategy room was broken at 9 o'clock in the morning the next day. Nina's voice came over the intercom, calm but urgent. Ms. Mercer, Mr. Pierce is here. He says it's urgent. Ariana glanced at Jasper and Evelyn. The look between them said it all. This was it. The moment the snake bit its own tail. "Show him in," she said. The door opened. Harold Pierce stepped in, his face wearing a look of grave concern, one hand clutching the fake memo. "Ariana, we have a big problem." The play began. Ariana feigned shock, then shifted to anger, her eyes blazing. She slammed her hand on the table. "What the hell has my legal team been doing?" she snapped. "We cannot let this happen right before the signing." She turned to Jasper and ordered, "I want to know who is responsible." He stood silent, playing the lowly analyst, looking panicked, avoiding eye contact. No, calm down," Harold interjected, his tone measured, the reassuring confidence of someone in control. "Panic is what Damien wants. We can patch this. A small amendment will do perfect. Exactly as planned." At that moment, as if on cue, Nina spoke again. "Ms. Mercer, Attorney Evelyn Shaw has arrived." "Bring her in," Ariana replied without hesitation. Evelyn entered, posture straight and composed, her gaze sharp and as cold as a surgeon's blade. No handshakes, no pleasantries. "I hear there's a problem?" Ariana gave a brief summary. Harold handed her the memo. Evelyn put on her glasses, read carefully, nodding a few times. When she looked up, she spoke slowly, professionally, and firmly. "The analyst is right. This is an unpleasant situation. But Harold is also right. It's manageable." She rummaged in her leather brief and pulled out a single sheet of paper. "I've prepared some additional language. A standard indemnity clause for potential EU regulatory conflicts. A boilerplate paragraph, but clean, enough to neutralize the issue and strengthen our position." She handed that page to Harold. That page was the Trojan horse. Harold took it and skimmed it quickly. Jasper watched silently, his heart pounding in his chest. The old man skimmed through dense paragraphs, his eyes hunting for familiar keywords: termination, payment, liability. He did not see the reciprocal clause hidden between the lines on regulatory compliance. Then he looked up. "Perfect, entirely reasonable," Harold said, relief edging into pride. "Excellent. Simple. Clean." He turned to Ariana, wearing the smile of a man convinced he'd just saved the company. "Let me handle this. I have lunch with Damien today. I'll present it as a minor amendment on our side, purely a formality. He'll sign without reading." Ariana nodded, deftly masking her smile. "I trust you, Harold." "Do it." Harold folded the page carefully and placed it in his briefcase. The metallic click of the lock sounded crisp, neat, satisfying. He had just locked his own instrument of destruction inside. When the door closed behind him, the room fell silent. The three of them looked at each other. No one spoke for a few seconds. Only ragged breathing and a heavy truth hung in the air. The plan had worked. Perfect. No loose ends. But there was no time to celebrate. "Mr. Reyes, this is Ms. Sharon from Riverside Elementary." The voice came, rushed, over the phone. "Sophia's temperature is very high. She is a bit disoriented and keeps asking for you. I think you should come pick her up immediately." Jasper's world shrank to that single voice. The billion-dollar deals, the espionage plots, the lines of code and strategies, all dissolved. Only one thing remained in his mind. His daughter was sick, scared, and he was not by her side. "I'm coming," he said, his voice choked and heavy. Ariana saw the naked pain on Jasper's face, his eyes rimmed red, his jaw clenched. "Go, Jasper. We will handle the rest," she said. He shook his head reflexively. "I can't." No," Ariana cut in, her voice sharp and decisive like a command. "Call Dr. Sato. I'm calling him now." She picked up her phone, dialed quickly, her voice clear, cold, but authoritative. "Dr. Sato, this is Ariana Mercer. I have an emergency. I need your best pediatric team. The whole team. Mobile diagnostic equipment, everything. I'll send the address, 20 minutes. No, not for me. For the daughter of the most important person in my company, Jasper stood frozen, tears welling in his eyes. He was speechless. Ariana laid a light hand on his shoulder. We're partners, Jasper, she said softly. We take care of each other. Let me fight for your daughter, so you can fight for all of us. He nodded, lips trembling as if to say thank you. Before he could speak, the door burst open. Nina rushed in, pale-faced. Ms. Mercer, there's a problem. The monitoring system has detected an unusual access attempt into the financial server. Someone is trying to tamper with the transaction logs. The air in the room snapped into urgent focus. Jasper spun, lunged for the laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. He frowned. No, this isn't an attack, he said quickly, voice dropping. This is a query. Someone is triggering an automated protocol. A cold premonition ran down his spine. Then, he saw it. The familiar digital signature. The name appeared on the screen like a ghost from hell. Argent Protocol. Jasper froze. Impossible. His hand trembled as it brushed the screen, as if he could not believe his eyes. They're using it, he whispered. They have weaponized the Argent Protocol. Ariana stepped closer, her voice lowered. What is the Argent Protocol? Jasper looked up, his eyes hollow as if he'd just watched the past rise from the grave. It's me, he said softly, his voice thick. It's the work of my life. What Damien stole when he destroyed me 6 years ago, and now he's using it to destroy you. The air in the room congealed. Ariana straightened, her face shifting, from surprise to the calm resolve of someone about to go to battle. Jasper's phone rang again. Mrs. Alvarez. Her voice broke with panic. Jasper, the ambulance is on the way. Sophia. Sophia is struggling to breathe. The world stopped. 1 beat, 2 beats. Jasper's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I have to go. Now, he said, his voice breaking, and he turned to run. Ariana stopped him, placing a hand on his shoulder, just enough to hold him for a single second. Go, Jasper. Dr. Sato will be there before you. She looked deep into his eyes, both steely and warm. And remember this, we will win. Both battles. He nodded once, then bolted from the room. The door thudded shut behind him. Ariana stood motionless. Evelyn turned, worry in her gaze. 2 bombs, she whispered. 1 inside this company, and 1 inside his heart. Jasper tore through the streets toward the small apartment on the Upper West Side, his heartbeat pounding like war drums. When he arrived, he froze. Parked in front of the building was not an ordinary ambulance, but a private medical van, sleek and silver-white, blue lights reflecting off the old brick facade. Inside, Dr. Kenji Sato, a tall Japanese man in his 50s, with neatly trimmed salt and pepper hair, knelt beside Sophia, who lay curled up on the couch, her forehead glistening with sweat. 3 nurses moved around with silent precision, portable medical equipment filling the small living room. The steady beep of a heart monitor blended with Jasper's ragged breathing as he stepped in. "Daddy," Sophia whimpered, her voice weak and trembling. Jasper dropped to his knees, gathering her into his arms. Everything he'd held together that day broke. Tears spilled, hot and raw. "I'm here, sweetheart. Daddy's here." Dr. Sato laid a steady hand on his shoulder, his voice calm and grounded in quiet authority. "Mr. Reyes, her fever is coming down. We've administered antipyretics and are running full blood panels, but more importantly, at Ms. Mercer's request, we conducted a comprehensive genomic scan." He paused, eyes gleaming behind thin lenses. "I believe we've identified the root cause, a deficiency in an extremely rare enzyme. And there's a new gene therapy in clinical trials, not only capable of managing the symptoms, but potentially curing it entirely." He looked up, speaking slowly, as if afraid Jasper wouldn't believe it. The success rate is very high. The word cure echoed in Jasper's mind, a word he had stopped hoping to hear long ago. He looked at his daughter, her pale face, her small hand gripping his, and felt himself tremble between two storms, faith and fear. But there was no time. His eyes flicked to his watch, 10:45 p.m. Harold would meet Damien for lunch tomorrow. The signing was the day after, and the Argent Protocol, the weapon born from his own mind, was counting down to activation. Jasper swallowed hard. He knew who he needed to find, the only man who could help him defuse the bomb he had built himself. Miles Garner. After making sure Sophia was stable in Dr. Sato's care, Jasper stood. He brushed his daughter's hair back and kissed her forehead gently. "Daddy will be back soon, princess." Then he turned away, his eyes now forged in steel and fire. Jasper pulled out his phone, opened his contacts, scrolling to a number he had sworn never to call again. His finger hovered. He drew a deep breath, then pressed call. 3 rings. A familiar voice answered. "This is Miles." "Miles, it's me, Jasper Reyes." The silence on the other end cut through the air like a blade. Finally, Miles spoke, his tone cold as steel. 6 years. What the hell, Jasper? Jasper inhaled, steadying his voice. "I need your help. It's about Damien. He's about to collapse a billion-dollar company. And he's weaponized the Argent Protocol." On the other end, Jasper heard a long, heavy breath. "Argent, I thought you destroyed that research. I should have," Jasper said, voice breaking. "But Damien stole it. And now it's integrated into the market, buried inside millions of transactions. Miles, I need to execute a special sequence during the final seconds before the market closes Friday. I need your terminal silence." Then a dry, humorless laugh. "You're asking me to bet my license, my company, my entire life, based on the word of a man who disappeared 6 years ago?" Jasper closed his eyes, exhaled slowly. His voice dropped, low, rough, threaded with desperate conviction. "I'm asking you to believe in the man you used to know, not the lie they built after." A long pause, so long he could almost hear the ticking of a clock in the distance. Then Miles spoke, short and low. "Mulberry Street Cafe. 1 o'clock. Come alone." Jasper stared at the phone in his hand. Outside the window, New York glowed under cold, golden light. He knew this wasn't just a meeting, it was a return to hell. Mulberry Street Cafe, in the heart of Little Italy, looked exactly as Jasper remembered. Small, worn down, saturated with the bitter smell of over-roasted espresso, a room trapped in time. And tonight, time itself was waiting for him. Miles Garner was already there. He looked older, more tired, but still carried that restless sharpness, the energy of a man who always thought 3 steps ahead of the world. When Jasper approached, Miles didn't stand. He just looked up, his voice hoarse, slow, waited. 6 years, Jasper. You disappeared. A pause, then lower, tinged with hurt and suspicion. I thought you were guilty." Jasper slid into the seat opposite him, not trying to defend himself. He told him everything, every detail. From Damien's betrayal, the forged contracts, the false accusations, the 3 years in prison, to the 6 years spent living like a ghost. He told him about Ariana, about Harold Pierce, about the video that exposed the conspiracy, and finally, about the Argent Protocol, the system they had once built together, now weaponized, ready to destroy not just Mercer Capital Group, but potentially the market itself. Miles listened in silence. A shudder crossed his face. "He weaponized it," Miles muttered, shaking his head. "That bastard. I always knew something was off about the way he pushed you out, but I never imagined." He stopped, locking eyes with Jasper. "What do you need me to do?" Jasper leaned forward, his voice low, firm. A kill switch. I built one into the algorithm. A chain of illogical, meaningless trades. But if executed perfectly, it forces the system into an emergency self-shutdown. The problem is, to trigger it, I need a terminal with direct access, ultra-low latency, wired straight to the central trading server. And I need a broker skilled enough to execute 17 split trades in under 3 seconds without tripping a single SEC alert. Miles leaned back, silent. He stared at Jasper for a long time, then smiled, a small, bitter, admiring smile. "The Jasper Reyes I knew," he said slowly, "was the most honest man I ever met, and the only mad genius crazy enough to hide a kill switch inside his own masterpiece." He extended his hand, the smile widening, his eyes suddenly alive again, like the old days. "I'm in." Jasper clasped the hand firmly. In that moment, a part of him, the part that had died 6 years ago, came back to life. For the first time in years, he wasn't alone. When they stepped out of the cafe near 2 a.m., New York was still awake, streetlights glinting off the rain-slick pavement. In the freezing night wind, Jasper felt his heart begin to thaw. On his phone screen, a line of red text blinked. Time remaining, 10 hours. And now, the final battle, of intellect, of faith, and of redemption, was about to begin. Friday. Dawn broke over Manhattan in the cold silver light of a fateful day. Jasper hadn't slept. He had spent the night beside Sophia, holding her hand while Dr. Sato's team stayed on watch, monitoring every heartbeat, every number on the vital screen. Her fever had broken. She was sleeping peacefully, breathing evenly. But inside Jasper, the storm still raged. The real battle was yet to come. At 7 a.m., he bent down, kissed his daughter's forehead. "Daddy has to go to work for a bit, sweetheart. But when I come back, everything will be different. I promise." He lingered for a few seconds longer, then left, carrying the image of her sleeping face like a silent reminder that everything he did today was for her. 9:30 a.m., the financial district. Miles Garner's office sat in the heart of downtown, a minimalist steel and glass command center pulsing with screens. Dozens of charts, numbers, and trade lines danced like a living matrix across the walls. The air was thick with caffeine and tension. Miles stood before the array of terminals, his voice curt but firm. "The kill switch is ready. But we get one shot. You'll have to give me the signal exactly." Jasper nodded, eyes fixed on the main screen. A pulse of light appeared. Argent protocol. Still there, buried deep within the trading network like a dormant parasite. But Jasper knew. It was alive, waiting for the final trigger. Obsidian Spire. 81st floor. The boardroom looked like a financial war theater. Midday sunlight streamed through the towering glass panes, gleaming off the polished mahogany table where an empire's fate would be sealed. Ariana sat at the head, posture straight, eyes sharp as steel. Beside her was Evelyn Shaw, composed, unreadable, the silent strategist, whose every nod could tilt the balance. Across from them sat Damian Roth, a victorious smile curling at his lips, and Harold Pierce, calm and confident, unaware that inside his expensive leather briefcase rested his own death warrant. 20 board members and the legal teams lined the sides of the table. The air was dense with tension and power. "The documents are ready, Ariana," Harold said smoothly, voice oiled with experience. "Shall we begin?" But she couldn't sign yet. Not yet. Every minute mattered. Jasper needed time. "For a deal of this scale," Ariana said coolly, her tone surgical, "we cannot afford carelessness. I have a few final questions for the legal division regarding the indemnity section." And so the performance began. She became the embodiment of precision and diligence, questioning every clause, every footnote. Her voice, a perfect balance of professionalism and feigned concern, convinced everyone she was simply a cautious CEO chasing perfection. In truth, she was buying every second, every heartbeat. Damien began to lose patience. His fingers tapped the table, steady, rhythmic, irritated. Harold leaned toward her, hand resting lightly on her arm, his tone syrupy and patronizing. "You're doing wonderfully, my dear. But sometimes, don't let perfection become the enemy of the good, my dear." The words made Ariana's stomach twist. If it weren't for the plan, she would have slapped him across the table. She glanced at the clock. 1:47 p.m. The market would close at 1:50 p.m. Miles's office. Miles leaned toward the screen, frowning. "Jasper, something's wrong. Argent, it's moving." He typed fast, eyes darting. "It's reacting to an external trigger." The protocol's waking up. Jasper stared at the stream of data, the rhythm of the system accelerating, every line glowing brighter. His phone buzzed. A secure message flashed from Ariana. "Can't delay anymore." "Be ready." Jasper looked up, his eyes and voice both sharp as a blade. "This is it. When I say the word, you hit the switch." Miles nodded, hand poised above the keyboard, palms slick with sweat. In the room, the only sound was the ticking of a digital clock. Time remaining, 2 hours, 10 minutes. 3 worlds, the boardroom on the 81st floor, the trading office, and the quiet apartment where Sophia slept, were converging toward a single moment. A moment where everything would end, or begin again. 2:15 p.m. The boardroom. "Ariana, that's enough." Damien's voice cut through the air like a blade. His patience had run out. He shoved the contract folder toward her, tone sharp and cold. "Sign it now, or the hostile takeover goes public in 2 minutes. Your board will vote you out before the market closes." "Time's up." Harold placed a reassuring hand on Ariana's wrist, his voice low, almost sympathetic. "He's right, Ariana." "It's time." Ariana looked up, from Damien's smug face to Harold's false, benevolent smile. She lifted the gold pen. Her hand trembled slightly, not from fear but from fury coursing through her veins. Just as the pen tip touched the line for her signature, a voice crackled in her hidden earpiece. "Ms. Mercer, not yet. Don't sign." She froze. The pen hovered less than a millimeter above the paper. Damien leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Harold followed, feigning concern. "Something wrong, Ariana?" Ariana lifted her gaze, locking eyes with Harold, and in that instant, she saw it. A flicker, a split-second flash of fear in his eyes. Tiny, fleeting, but enough. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, voice cold and sharp as glass, "before I sign, I'd like to show you something." She nodded to Nina. The massive screen behind her flickered to life, casting a pale light across the room. A grainy video appeared, secretly recorded, a dimly lit office, and from the speakers, Harold Pierce's unmistakable voice echoed, "Once she signs this contract, we don't just take the company. We take James Mercer's entire legacy." The room froze. No one breathed. Harold shot to his feet, face pale. "Ariana, this isn't..." "Isn't what, Harold?" Ariana's voice rose, controlled but cutting. "Isn't true?" Damien stood too, his smirk collapsing into horror. At that exact moment, the doors burst open. 2 security officers entered, followed by the head of corporate security, eyes hard as steel. 2:25 p.m. Miles's office. "Jasper!" Miles shouted. "Argent's reacting." The devices in the boardroom are pinging. Mercer stock's going volatile. On the monitors, the Argent protocol's digital signature exploded into thousands of frenzied lines of code. Jasper whispered, face drained of color. "No. No. The video. The public exposure. That's the fail-safe trigger." Damien coded it, so if the plot is exposed, Argent self-activates to create chaos and cover its tracks. He slammed his palm on the desk. Argent isn't just reacting, it's attacking. 2:27 p.m. The boardroom. Every phone on the table buzzed violently. Board members bent down, faces blanching. Mercer stock is crashing. The market's collapsing. We're in a flash crash. Damien stared at his screen, the grin gone, replaced by pure panic. Then he looked up and met Ariana's gaze. A long, heavy moment. You knew, he whispered. Ariana smiled, cold, merciless. I knew everything. 2:28 p.m. Miles's office. Now, Miles! Hit it! Miles's fingers flew across the keyboard. The 17 illogical trades launched, a cascade of nonsense slicing into the digital storm of the market. Jasper's heart pounded as he watched. The kill switch, absurd, chaotic, impossible, was running. 1 second, 2, nothing. Then suddenly, the pulse of Argent Protocol faltered and went flat. A perfect, silent line. Jasper exhaled, gasping like a man pulled from deep water. It's down. It's gone. Miles leaned back, wide-eyed. Holy hell, we did it. 2:29 p.m. The boardroom. Damien's phone vibrated violently. He glanced down. Roth Dynamics stock plummeting. A massive sell-off, unstoppable, the echo of the kill switch. He looked up and saw Ariana Mercer staring right at him. Her smile was soft as a whisper, sharp as a blade. The game's over, Damien. The boardroom fell silent. Only the clock's steady ticking remained. Victory. The boardroom erupted into chaos. Executives shouted over one another, phones blared, papers scattered through the air. But in the center of the storm, Ariana Mercer stood calm, an island of composure in a sea of panic. Harold Pierce staggered to his feet. His legs trembled. The confidence that had once filled his face had crumbled into the perfect portrait of ruin. Ariana, you have to understand. I had no choice. They threatened me. Don't, Ariana cut in, her voice like ice. Don't dishonor my father's memory any further with your lies. Damien Roth, the man who once controlled every move on the board, now stood frozen, pale and hollow-eyed, staring at his phone as if reading his own death sentence. Evelyn Shaw stepped forward, her voice calm but heavy with authority. You gentlemen should know something. Hidden in the contract Harold so enthusiastically brought us yesterday, there's a small clause. She paused, letting her words settle like lead. It states that if either party attempts to activate a leveraged buyout under fraudulent or conspiratorial conditions, all assets of that party will be seized as liquidated damages. A deadly silence filled the room. We have the recording of your conspiracy, she continued, steady as stone. We have the fund transfers to Geneva. And now, thanks to the market attack you just triggered, documented live by the Securities and Exchange Commission, we have evidence of deliberate market manipulation. Evelyn turned toward Damien, her voice sharp as a scalpel. Roth Dynamics isn't just bankrupt, it's ours now. Every asset, every patent, every line of code. Damien shook his head, muttering like a broken man. No, that's impossible. Security, Ariana commanded, her tone like forged steel. Escort these two out. The FBI is waiting downstairs, as Harold and Damien were led away. One lifeless, the other screaming for his lawyer. Ariana turned back to the silent board. The meeting is adjourned. You'll receive a full report within 24 hours. She paused, her gaze steady, powerful. Mercer Capital Group stands, and it will rise stronger than ever 1 month later, 81st floor, Friday afternoon. Jasper Reyes stood before the wide glass windows, watching the city glitter beneath him. Outside his office door, a new plaque gleamed. Jasper Reyes, Chief Risk Strategy Officer. His name had been cleared. The story of the man who was framed and rose again had become a quiet legend on Wall Street. He was no longer a ghost. The door burst open. "Daddy!" Sophia ran in, cheeks rosy, eyes bright. The gene therapy had worked. Doctors said that in 6 months she would be completely healthy. Jasper knelt and wrapped her in his arms. "Ready to go, sweetheart?" "Ready," she chirped, her voice full of sunshine. At the doorway, Ariana Mercer stood smiling, a rare, gentle warmth softening her sharp features. Don't let me keep you two. You've both earned this break. The alliance born from crisis had evolved into something deeper. Friendship. Two people from different worlds, a billionaire CEO and a forgotten engineer, now bound as partners, guardians of each other's legacies. Jasper looked at her, the woman who had risked her empire to save his daughter. His voice was low, sincere. Thank you. Ariana smiled softly. We're partners, Jasper. And partners take care of each other. And so, one story closes. But the truth is, this isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Sometimes, those we think are invisible are the ones who see the clearest. Those who seem weak are often the strongest. And those the world forgets. Sometimes they're the ones who change everything. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, because there are still so many stories of humanity, of downfall and redemption, of love and courage waiting to be told. See you in the next video.